Let's go ahead and begin on all fours. Knees are underneath your hips, hands are underneath your shoulders. You can have your toes tucked or flat, whatever feels best to you. We're going to walk our hands back just a tiny bit so that we have a little bit more weight in our knees than in our hands. And we're going to just start with some wrist rocks here. If your wrists are very, very sensitive or they're not feeling great today, I want you to actually you're keeping your weight back, take your hands out a little farther so you have a little bit less of a bend in this wrist. So think this angle isn't 90 degrees, but it's a little bit more than that. So here, we're going to find that position where we can hang out here and it's not super intense. And we're just going to gently start rocking back and forth. So thinking about using our knees to kind of push our weight forward and back, aiming to get a stretch and a sensation in our wrist, our hand, maybe our thumb, maybe our forearm a little bit. Just kind of see what happens. And then if this is feeling pretty good or you're noticing that things are starting to open up, you can go ahead and scoot your hands back a little closer to you and get a little bit more of an angle going on your wrists. But keeping this not painful, just what feels like a decent stretch. Anytime we're working any small joints, like wrists or ankles or necks, where there's just a lot of things going on and a lot of tiny muscles and a lot of little bones, it's a really good idea to go to the edge of where you're feeling some sensation, maybe a little tiny bit of discomfort, but nothing painful. All right, go ahead and give those wrists a break. Sit back on your heels and shake it out. If you can't go all the way back, you can keep yourself up on your knees. That's fine as well. Now we're going to go back to all fours. Now we're going to add a little bit of circling here. So finding that same position where we're not feeling any pain in our wrists. So maybe that's a little farther out, maybe that's a little closer to you, whatever works. We're just going to add a little rock, this time from side to side. This first few are going to be experimental. If that feels good, then we're going to add a circle. Maybe it stays really small if this is feeling a little intense, or maybe you make it bigger if things are feeling okay. If you're not sure, start small and then work bigger, because your wrists will open up and make a little bit more room if you don't go in and just find where it hurts and punch it in the face. It's not going to like that, so you don't need to do that. Go ahead and change direction. You can come back and take a break at any time. Just go back to your knees, get some weight off your hands, give them a break. A few more circles here. Don't forget to breathe. Maybe moving those wrists out a little bit if it's not super agreeing with you or you're noticing it's starting to fatigue. Very nice. Let's go ahead and finish our circle. And then we'll meet sitting back on your haunches, giving your hands a break. You can do a little shake like I did. You can do little circles. Just give them a little bit of motion if that feels okay. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and stretch the other side of our wrist. So we're going to come to one hand with a flat palm, wherever feels comfortable. If your wrists are getting tired, you can go to a fist or you can go out a little farther. Your hand that we're going to stretch, we're going to go ahead and take the back of our hand and set it down on the ground. Just thinking about reaching your forearm and your wrist where they meet toward the ground. If you're thinking, Mother of God, why is she having me do this? Go ahead and scoot your hand nice and close to your knee so that you're not trying to stretch your wrist like absolute crazy. We want to find this position with the top of our hand flat on the ground that we can actually sustain and it doesn't feel painful. So go ahead and just take some little fidgets here if you need to. Make sure that you feel comfortable in this position. We don't want a crazy stretch on that wrist. So if it's stretching like crazy, move it a little closer to your knee. Because what we're going to do is we're going to add a little extra stretch. You're going to take one finger, you're going to reach it toward your palm. It probably won't make it there or anywhere close. We're just reaching one finger at a time, like we're trying to tap our palm, and that's going to stretch out the front of the top of our hand like crazy. And so we don't have to do a huge, huge stretch here. You can keep this small, barely moving your fingers. Nice and gently. Walking from your index finger down to your pinky, and from your pinky back to your index finger. This can be a little intense, so take a break whenever you need to. And if you're still with me, we're going to go ahead and walk it back to our index finger, and then we'll switch over to the other side. Very nice. So go ahead and take that hand, roll it out a little bit. That was intense. If it's a little uncomfortable, that's normal. If it's painful, you want to do a little less stretch or a little less movement with the fingers next time. Then once you feel good here, you're going to go ahead and plant that hand down. We're going to the other side. One side might feel different than the other. You might need to be way, way closer. You might be able to be farther out. Whatever you're at is fine. Doesn't matter. Just find what feels good. Once you get that top of your hand on the ground, check in that you're not stretching this wrist so much that you can't move your fingers. If you can't, if you're here and your fingers are long and you're just like, man, how am I supposed to do that? The answer is move your hand closer to your knee. Then once you find that position that feels good, go ahead and curl up one finger like you're trying to tap the center of your palm. Walking your way down your hand from your index finger down to your pinky. And then don't worry about lifting really high. If that's not working for you today, just get a little bit of motion. As long as, honestly, I don't even care if you don't get motion. Just get a little bit of stretch. If you're stretching, fantastic. One day, even if you're not able to move your fingers, one day you will be able to, because you need to get enough stretch that your wrist gets a little more room in it. Doesn't matter if you move your fingers or not. It's just a mechanism that we can use to progress this. So wherever you're at, let's go ahead and walk our way back to our index finger. And if you're just stretching out the back of your hand, just take one more deep breath and then go ahead and let that hand go, maybe drawing some circles in the air. And then go ahead and sit back on your haunches, give your hands a break. You can even stretch out your wrist a little bit. You could do some circles. Just give them a second, give them what they need, or ignore them entirely and let them chill out. Doesn't matter to me. All right, we have one last thing to do, which are going to be our wrist pivots. Now, wrist pivots are very weird because they feel like something that makes no sense until you get used to it. So if you're new to this, don't worry, we'll walk through it. All right, so coming back to all fours. Similarly, if we want to give our wrists a little bit of room, we walk our hands out a little more in front of us. If we want to give them a little bit more stretch, we walk them closer to us. So go ahead and find a spot where you're not stretching your wrists like crazy, all right? They should be pretty comfortable. Once you've found that position, we're gonna think about pivoting our forearms. So literally moving our forearm while keeping our hand still, rolling our forearms so our elbow pits face forward, and then rolling back so our elbow pit faces more toward your body. And we're just going to do one arm at a time. I'm starting on my right, but you can start with whichever hand you want. Rolling it so your elbow pit faces forward, rolling it so your elbow pit faces back. And what this is doing is where your forearm meets your wrist is actually pivoting and mobilizing and trying to make a little bit of room. If this is pretty intense, move that hand out farther away from you, get some weight off of it, and make this pivot smaller. You can just do a tiny wiggle if that's what's on the menu for you today. Fantastic. We want to prioritize this not feeling terrible. We want it to feel stretchy, maybe a tiny bit uncomfortable, but it should not feel terrible and painful. Let's go ahead and do one more pivot wherever you're at, whatever size you're at. And you're going to go ahead, give this hand a break if it needs it before we get set up to do the other side. If that wrist is tired, you can come to a fist. You can grab onto a dumbbell, give yourself some support. Now we're going to go ahead and find that position on the other arm. So that might be a little farther out in front. If this is your funky side, it might be a little closer to you. If this is your roomier side, we're just going to go ahead and find that pivot again, thinking about our wrist is pivoting, but we're going to use our elbow as a guide. So our elbow pit's going to face forward. Our elbow pit's going to roll back. and forward and back. And then I want you to be on all fours if you're following me and you're getting confused, because I have one hand up. That's just so you can see what I'm doing. So I want you to have all your paws on the ground. Reminder for this side that maybe you're making that pivot just a little bit smaller if this side feels more terrible. Or if you have some room, you can make those pivots pretty big. Just notice where you're at and meet yourself there. Let's do a few more. Take a breath. Last one. And release. So go ahead and come down to a seat. You can go ahead and interlace your fingers. Just take a little roll, wrist circle. Nice and slow. Just give your wrists a chance to move out of this pretty intense thing that we just did. And then now you're going to go ahead and open your fingers, interlace them the way that feels weird, and do the same thing. Very, very nice. Go ahead and do a few more. Slowing down if you're like me and you got distracted and sped up. And last one. And just like that, you are all set.